Hey, everybody, welcome to LinkedIn Live and YouTube Live. Mike is busy accusing me of turning off MFA, which I did not
For
do.
me.
I did not do that. Did
Okay.
not do that, Mike. Wait,
Then you hacked my LinkedIn account.
no, that's not what happened. I will explain to you what has happened to your LinkedIn account after we finish this, Mike.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinated to know.
All right, but hey, no laughing matter. There's a lot that happened this week, or that's going on right
Yeah, just in the
now.
last 2 days. When was the last time Monday was the last time we talked
Right,
because we
right,
couldn't figure out how to do it last week.
right. Yeah, a lot going on, and then now, there's another week of big events that need you, Mike. Tell people what's going on.
Well, there's a new cyber star out there. The BackMatter ransomware gang is getting a lot of press right now, which, is really kind of just the reformulated elements of the dark side ransomware gang that, got spanked pretty bad, faded into the shadows, and maybe reconstituted. But man, I'm getting tired of saying this stuff. Dang it.
Well, I mean, I don't know, man. The timing and targeting on this last one, maybe we'll get some action from the government and make this end because clearly, these gangs breaking up, then they just come back together. I mean, it's all, I don't know. But but this one is such a big deal. We're gonna do an urgent panel on this on Tuesday. We just decided this morning, so invites will come out. If you want an invite to our urgent panel discussion, email me at jake@criticalinsight.com. I don't have a link to send you yet because we got to create the landing page and do all the markety things to make it happen. But that'll be coming up. The markety things. Yes, that's what I do.
All right. Don't forget SAT on Friday too.
Oh, and security awareness training on Friday. Right. If you need an invite to that, email me. But Mike, what's going on with BackMatter?
The story we know so far is this. The BackMatter gang hit a grain cooperative with ransomware, which, they did this, and the result is disruption of both retail and farm feed. So the negotiations that are going on with the gang, and if you've been reading some of this on Twitter and the news, you know that basically this grain co-op is giving the gang the middle finger. And they're warning them they've crossed the critical infrastructure line, just like they were warned not to do. So it's pretty funny watching this. Have you seen this?
I did, and I mean, one of the really interesting things about it is that the gang doesn't agree and that they're actually arguing their point. Like, this is a gang that said we're not going to attack hospitals, but then they go after the food sector.
Yeah.
Like, and by the way, there's something else going on. The FBI has a universal decryption key that they held from somebody for 3 weeks.
Yes, they did. And that's, I think, one of the topics we'll talk about next week. Depending on what's actually been impacted, if the grain co-op can't recover quickly, this is going to have a long tail, which is a funny thing to say when you're talking about animal feed. I believe they're able to work around, their distribution problems and get grain out to feedlots, but I assume they're losing money pretty rapidly.
And the same gang hit an advertising company called Marketron. And this is a big deal because Marketron supplies ads to media companies, far and wide, and has impacted radio stations all over the place. But big article about a bunch of Vermont radio stations, but a whole bunch of them, right?
Yeah. Well, as capitalism depends on ads to convince you to consume plastic things that you use a couple of times and throw in a landfill. So, messing with Marketron could cause the demise of Western civilization now, couldn't it?
Mm-hmm. Sure, Mike. Hyperbole does not become you, but I will say, no matter what you say about capitalism, those are the ads that do keep journalism going. Except for NPR, that's how journalists get paid. So, this one, I don't know if you agree, but I actually also tie this one to some of those attacks on media companies that we talked about before, like
Yeah.
the one on Cox Media Group, and some others. Like this is the bad guys going after the revenue that pays for journalism. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, I think this is part of that.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll talk more about this on Tuesday because there's a lot of really interesting moving parts here. Not the least of which is how the targeting is being done to walk that line between criminality and terrorism, right? Just to tie off the grain cooperative thing, in doing the investigation, what responders have found is there's a whole lot of breached credentials, passwords that have been found in other dumps that were also used at the co-op. The most popular password, chicken one. So, pro tip, if you're not using multi-factor authentication and you allow passwords like chicken one, your wounds are completely self-inflicted.
I mean, since all of my passwords are Critical Insight 1 and Critical Insight 2, is that okay?
Is that what you changed my LinkedIn password to?
Yeah, when you say you needed 2FA, that's when I went to Critical Insight 2.
I see.
Is that that's what 2FA means, right, Mike?
No.
No? Shoot. Hell. Oh no! Wait. All right. Hey, we are going to talk more on Tuesday about some of that stuff. So, again, if you want an invite to that, jake@criticalinsight.com, shoot me an email. I'll make sure you get an invite. All right. We got to talk about some other stuff here. On the topic of what we do about this, and we talked about this a little bit last time we talked. Let's talk about some of the sanctions that are being threatened, because that's an evolving story.
It is, and in fact, and this is in this morning's blast, which seemingly choked. I'm not sure that everybody got it this morning. I think MailChimp kind of must have died or something. But this is not a threat. So number one, General Nakasone has promised a surge against ransomware operators, meaning that we're in agreement that this is a national security issue and it's not just constant criming going on. And the administration, right, we talked about we're going to sanction these exchanges. They just did. They have sanctioned an exchange that's used to process criminal funds. So it's called SUEX, and it's a cryptocurrency exchange that the U.S. has accused of doing business with, hackers behind 8 types of ransomware. And that exchange just lost access to U.S. markets. So the administration is using this economic stick, and the military is lining up, to do some hackback. That's my assumption, and take down criminal infrastructure. They're going after them.
And hey, breaking news. Anna, who's our digital marketing helper,
Black belt.
In this case, black belt helper on the Daily Blast, is going to resend it because she found a problem. Apparently you did something wrong. I'm just kidding. She didn't say that, but it seems obvious to me. So anyway, back to
me too. What other explanation could there be, Jake?
But I know. Hey, but back to this, with what the military is getting ready to do, it sounds like we might finally be getting somewhere with this.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out over the next few days. I think by Tuesday, we're going to have a lot to talk about. But lots of gangs are paying close attention here. And as we've talked about, if you can ramp the pain sufficiently, the gangs are going to move to softer targets that aren't going to bite back.
Hey, by the way, one other thing that I saw this week in the blast and a couple other places is Russia is now claiming that the U.S. hacked their election. Is that real? Projection? Like,
I actually got asked about this by some publication. So here's the story. So, and this was in the blast a few days ago. TASS, okay, the Russian state media, reported that a few of their remote voting systems, okay, remember, Russia is really, really big, and people are very, very remote. So they provide an online ballot marking system like we should. And the story was about hacking, but if you read it, it looks like a few of these exposures were hit with denial of service attacks. And my guess is that's domestic. But a day later, Russia came out publicly and said the U.S. hacked their election. Okay, that's propaganda that should just be ignored, frankly.
if it's domestic groups doing that, it kind of feeds the narrative you've been talking about with the cyber activism coming to elections. I
Hmm.
don't know, and that reminds me, we have to talk about the Epic hack by Anonymous. Speaking of
Hmm.
cyber, activism. By the way, I found in reading all this, I didn't know Epic was local to us here in Western Washington, but
Sammamish, right?
yeah, in Sammamish.
Yeah. And what's the guy's name? Rob Monster.
Is it really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm, I missed that. So tell people what's going on with Epic.
Okay. So Epic is a domain registrar, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's lots of those. And GoDaddy is one of these.
Mm-hmm.
But it services some of the worst cruft on the internet. They hold domain registration records for Daily Stormer, Gab, Parler, and other online forums that spread the worst kind of conspiracy, white supremacy, government overthrow, and just all these are echo chambers that are the worst of the worst. So the Anons hacked the crap out of them. And I don't mean maybe, they got everything. And from what I've read about this, they're calling it the Rosetta Stone of the far right fringe. They've claimed they've obtained account credentials for Epic customers and internal systems, more than 500,000 private keys, Git repositories for Epic internal applications, and they said they dumped an employee's mailbox just because we could. And researchers are saying analysis of this is going to take months and maybe years. But the records include all kinds of personal, location, payment, and other information on every character trying to make space on the internet for hate speech and planning violence. So, said another way, Anonymous just punched all the Nazis.
One of the interesting things that has also come out of this is a problem that I myself face, which is I always make sure I get logins and usernames on those places because I want to see what people are saying. And
Hmm.
so, you end up in this place where I've seen, other journalists saying, "Hey, when you see me on there, this is why." It's
Yeah,
sort of like, there are some pages on Facebook that I have liked that like friends are like, "Why have you liked this page? What a horrible thing." And I'm like, "No, like it's because I want to know." Anyway, whatever.
it's
So
research.
it's research. But I imagine some actual bad people will use that too. Um, so, I guess we have to ask ourselves about this. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? If this kind of activism continues and becomes increasingly, two-sided, where do we land? I mean, you've talked
Yeah.
about ransomware hitting countries during an election. Doesn't this kind of thing start to line up as that as a possibility?
I think it's already a possibility, and that's why, again, we need some kind of fallback voting system. I hate to say it, but like Russia.
Great.
Hmm.
All right, Mike, threats and vulns.
Okay, so well, it's only been a couple of days. I'll reiterate that Azure is being smacked, and you better patch if you haven't. There's a Mirai style botnet dropping crypto miners on exposed Azure Linux VMs. There's also a new technique called SSID stripping. And if you create, at a wireless access point, throws off the SSID, right? Its name. And if you use new line characters in there, you can push out the real name that you've called. So it looks like something else, right? You can obfuscate the fact that this is, malicious. And then people connect to a rogue access point. So, it's not the biggest deal in the world. Um, Microsoft is also leaking credentials, hundreds of thousands of them, through something called the auto discover protocol. And it's tricky to explain, but suffice it to say that if you own autodiscover.com, you're going to get a lot of traffic. It's going to be beaconing out. All kinds of misconfigured Microsoft systems are going to be beaconing out, asking for auto discover. And what was the other one? There's instructions in today's blast on how to mitigate the Microsoft Office 0-day attack in progress. So read the blast every day.
Okay. And if for some reason you didn't get the blast today, email me and I'll kick it over to you.
Didn't
All
Anna
right.
just resend it? I think she resent it.
Yeah, technical stuff.
Mhm.
Hey, time for a kicker. The thing that you leave everybody with a smile. Can you
Oh,
do that today?
yeah, I think so.
What do you got?
Short and sweet. I have one piece of good news that might come to the US. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
The European Union is forcing Apple to use the same charger as everyone else. So, take that, you monopoly that's not a person.
I hadn't heard that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait, but that doesn't make me smile because I have all of these lightning chargers.
I know, so do I, and I would prefer not to.
Well, do you think we'll have a different charger for iPhones sold in the EU than in the US?
Possibly. Like I said, I hope it comes to U.S. shores, but we'll see.
No. All right. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us. Again, there are three big things going on. Number one, we're going to do that urgent panel discussion on Tuesday. Security awareness training is this Friday. And then because of Cybersecurity Awareness Month in October, we're going to do SAT every single Friday. And then third, if you didn't get today's blast and you need it, we'll get it to you. For all of those things, just email me, jake@criticalinsight.com, and we'll get it over to you. All right. Mike, do you have any last words of wisdom for people?
Nope.
Nope. Words of wisdom all gone. All right. See you all later. Bye-bye.
Bye.